everything started with this story of Romy Schneider?
Well, I was brought up in my teenage years in France, so she was very big then, and I knew of her films, and I always thought, because I was born in Germany, there was always something very, that attracted me, that she was, German, and but I was never an unconditional fan. I mean, I never would have thought to make a film about her. It was the idea actually of a French producer who unfortunately passed away during the making, who was friends with Marie Boima, who plays Romy. She lives in, Marie Boima, like Romy, is very francophile and lives in France since 11 years. And he just couldn't imagine, he just was so stunned by her resemblance, and he couldn't imagine that she'd never played her. And now Marie is quite famous in Germany, and she was asked quite a few times to play her, but she never accepted because it was always biopics, meaning telling a whole life in 90 minutes, from little girl to adult, and so she always refused. And so she said to him, and the only thing that would interest me would be to do a zoom in her life, at the end of her life, because Marie is over 40, and then that's how it came, and that's how they came to me, and with this idea of Quiberon. And to be honest, I didn't even know about this last interview, nor Quiberon. Yes. And I just, after this call, I just, before, I didn't know what to say. Of course, I was always fascinated by the artist, Romy Schneider, so I just typed on the computer, Romy Schneider Quiberon, like everybody does, when they don't know something. And I saw these pictures from Robert Lebecq. Actually, one picture, the last picture, is from him. Okay. This is the only picture from him with the real Romy, which looks very similar to our pictures. Yes. And so when I saw those pictures from Robert Lebecq, there's about 20 that are out there when you look, I was so moved by the fact, or so interested by the fact that it wasn't pictures of a star or this myth or an actress posing. It was a picture of a woman, pretty much my age, without makeup, totally unfiltered, because he was like a reportage photographer for the Stern. At that time, the Stern was a little bit like Life magazine. It worked a lot with pictures mostly. Right. And so he had the talent of taking pictures and people not noticing it. And she trusted him anyway, and she didn't really care about the way she looked at that point. And he even said to me that he was happy that the girlfriend was there, because he could tell the girlfriend, tell her to put on a bit of makeup, because he was thinking about her. Right. So those are the pictures that really moved me, because you could just see her in crisis and her so wanting to live, this ups and downs. And then I read the interview that blew me away. Then I saw 3 days, 4 characters, 4 Germans on a half island in Brittany. I thought, okay, I see a film. Yes. That's I usually do very long answers to my questions.
Yes. So that's nice. Yes. Want to hear. Over there.
Yeah, one of the big reasons. I was very lucky, because this was the first film I ever did on somebody real, so I took a lot of time to do research, and I was very lucky to meet everyone. I met Robert Lebecq, who also passed away. He was 84, so he was already quite ill, and I was very lucky that him and his widow, they gave me all the roles he did during those 3 days. So there's 20 pictures that were out in his books or on the internet, and I got 580 pictures. Very intimate pictures, pictures that he didn't consider good enough to give out. And I spent so much time looking at these pictures and imagining the scenes and what they could be saying, and dreaming that when, after a year of doing research, when I put it aside to write the script, I only saw black and white. Plus, because it's this reclos, I thought it's much more concentrated, black and white. We don't have all these colors. And another reason was that there's a lot in Germany and also France, lots of, I find pretty bad, like documentaries, reportages about Romy Schneider, all in color, and I wanted just to get away from that and go into some kind of a fiction. So.
Did you make up this relationship between the photographer and Romy Schneider, or was it your story about what happened there, or did it really happen?
Well, it's always a little bit of both. In the sense it is a fiction, but very, very inspired by what they told me and those pictures. And I also read his biography and few of hers. And so, of course, after 35 years, nobody remembers the dialogues that happened. And of course, a lot of things, she most probably didn't tell them that joke, because actually it's a joke that somebody told me. And most probably they didn't listen to that music and stuff like that. But there was, for sure, they spent the night together, and he told me that that's all they did. If that happened or not, I don't know. But I kind of made it open, you know. For me, it didn't. And for sure, from everything that I heard from people, she had real problems being alone at night. And to me personally, I think she felt very close to him. But to be honest, I have the feeling she was in such a crisis, it could have been anybody. In the sense, at that point, anybody could be Hilde, it could be him, and it could be anybody who was there. And when I asked him, so she was probably afraid to fall asleep alone, he says, no, she was afraid to wake up alone. And it's often these depressions that the mornings are worse than the nights, really. And so it is, a lot is true, but said in my way, and of course, the dialogue is what I thought could happen. Of course, the dialogue and many things are, and yeah, and at the I kind of he gives her the key in the film to make your own choice, you know, about if you don't want to do the film, don't do the film. That was kind of more my thing.
And I think it's a true description of alcoholism in her case. It's so really that she really tried, but she couldn't because she couldn't control herself. I think very truthful.
Yeah, and it didn't, she tried in the beginning, and then as soon as he gets emotional into the questions, and he you know, he digs into her traumas, like about her husband who hanged himself, then she stops it, and starting there, they go to the bar, and it's finished, yeah.
Yes, and also the interviewer, he brings a bottle of alcohol.
Now this, it's there. Nobody remembers who brought the bottles, right? I mean, there was bottles, and all the pictures. She's drinking a lot, and it's amazing. In this Quiberon, it's not a rehab, but it's like even now, because I've been a lot since, and even now there's a dietetic part where you just don't to lose weight. Depardieu goes there a lot. All these actors goes to do. Not that he ever manages, but to lose weight, to stop drinking. I mean, it's not a hospital, but you go to that hotel and you just don't, even if you go there saying, well, I'm not part of the system, can I have a glass of wine? They don't allow.
So you could shoot in the same place where...
I was very lucky, yeah. But all the outsides are there. It didn't change at all. Not at all, because they have very, very strict rules on the coasts in France, especially Brittany, that you're not allowed to build, which is wonderful. But the insides we shot in an island in Germany. All the insides, because that's changed. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, about the drink there. There was 2 bottles of white wine, and in all the pictures, everybody's drinking coffee except her, you know. And Michael Yerkes, who I saw a lot for the film, he didn't remember who ordered the wine, who maybe she ordered the wine. For sure, nobody stopped her from drinking, and I do believe that they were very happy that she was drinking, because when you drink, you open up, and that's what they, wanted.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated about some side character in the film. It's the waiter, and I wonder if there's something behind it. If you make him up or...
Yeah, the waiter, I did make him up, because I just felt like giving Hilda a break, She gets knocked about so much, and I also, in all this like trauma, of course, I think it feels really good to laugh a little. I mean, I don't know if you laughed, but, or with the croissant and the people, just to bring a little bit of also this absurdity of this place, where they're all smoking like crazy in their bathrobes and are not allowed to eat, which is very difficult for French people not to eat. And it was very funny, it was an anecdote. When I showed it in a French festival, there was this guy who came to me, quite young. He was kind of big, and he almost started crying. He says, she wasn't allowed to eat. And she just wasn't allowed to eat. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that was the biggest problem she had. But yes, it's true. It's not easy for a French person not to eat. But no, this actually, Hilde, the friend, there was really a friend there. And I met her as well. She lives in Germany, Berlin. But she, after 2 meetings, decided, I can't be part of this. And she didn't want to be like the journalist and the photographer. Had absolutely no problem to be immortalized on the screen. She didn't want, and that was a very big problem for me, because I really wanted the friend. I didn't want just Romy and the men, and Romy and the press. I really wanted this feminine friendship, this intimacy, and somebody who had nothing to do with this showbiz world. Right. And so I went back to her and I asked her, will you consider that I create a friend that has nothing to do with you, not the same nationality, not the same name, not the same job, not the same family situation? And she agreed, and then so Hilde is also fictional. I mean, the friend was there, and the friend had real problems, of course, with the photographer, with all of them. I mean, she was also there in that kind of a situation of trying to protect her friend. But the rest is fictive, and it was wonderful, actually, for me to have one character that I was free with, and she was a little bit my alter ego, really, Hilde. Or I had the feeling maybe the alter ego of the audience wanting to protect Romy and say, don't stop drinking, stop telling him this, let's finish this, and so on.
More questions? Maybe you can tell also about how we developed the script, because you read, of course, the Stern interview. How close is the dialogue in the film with the interview?
There's a lot of citations of the interview, especially the beginnings, and how he starts with, "Are you a Madonna or a whore?" I mean, crazy things to say to a star. Actually, I don't know. Most stars would have just stood up and gone. And then there's a lot of citations of other interviews she gave in Germany, especially, and also a little bit of France, because in the real interview, she sometimes they start to talk a lot about her mother and her father-in-law, and a lot of things that somehow in the dramaturgy of the film didn't work. Yeah, and some of the things I put, for example, in the mouth of the journalist, things that he told me, but that I kind of used against him to make him into a bigger antagonist. Though he was not a choir boy, he was really.
How did you personally felt about the interview when you read it, and was it to you some kind of like
I was shocked reading it. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that she would that he would go so far. And I couldn't believe how even more, I was shocked that she would answer him and let him go so far. as if he was her psychologist, or as if he was her best friend. And that was, and that she was so willing to reveal, I'm nothing, I could have had a better life, and she was really a huge star. And then in the first read, you think she's total, she's a victim being, eaten up by the press. But at the end of the day, I realized who's manipulating who. At the end of the day, she knew of her power, especially with men, to touch them. And at the end of the day, he offers her this, pretty much the interview saying, you could put it in the trash if you want. And she only changed, and that was really in reality, she only changed a few, she read it, and she was totally sober at that point, and she only changed a few things about her mother, that's it. She just gave it all free, meaning there was her will that the German audience knows how she's doing. And to stop comparing her to the pure white flower sissy, a 15-year-old historical film figure, is so ridiculous. And then to know that she's not a white lily, but she is a 42-year-old unhappy woman called Romy Schneider.
Do you have any comments in the audience?
Now, I would be interested to know if you knew, you knew Romy Schneider, if you watched in Finland her movies, like on TV or in the cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm.
Yes.
How many sissy fans we have here?
What about the French films like La Piscine and all that? Were they in the cinema? Yeah. So she was kind of famous here.
Yes. There was a question there.
Oh, yes. One very impressive in this big role. I was wondering, Denis Lavant had a small part there too, and we know him from Leo Scarrax's films, which are really great. How did he end up there? What was the idea to have him in this role?
I'm such a fan of this actor, Denis Lavant, who plays in the bar, the guy who makes her dance. I'm a fan since years of him. When even I was living in France and in Paris, I would go see him in the theater because he was an amazing theater actor too. And of course, in my beginning of my 20s, I looked at all the Leo Carax, Boy Meets Girl, the first, also Juliette Binoche film, and all these films he did with him. I never thought he would accept, really. But this poet, it was, Robert Lebec was extremely inspired during that evening. Most of the pictures he did of all those 580 were really in the bar. And actually it's also, I love the bar, that scene, that's why it's so long. And the guy who was there, who actually came to her, says, "Are you Madame Sissy?" And everybody was like this, thinking, oh my God, she's gonna get out her claws, but then she said, "Sit down and drink with me." He was an independentist in Brittany, fighting for the free Brittany, and a poet, and also a musician. And I somehow kind of much taller than Denis Lavant, but some kind of a dandy, half dandy, vagabond, street guy almost. And I thought, this Denis Lavant would be so perfect in it. And so we just sent the script to him, to his agent, and he told me later, he was very touched by the script, by Romy's character in the script, very touched by it. And he accepted. It was only, it wasn't a big part, it was 3 days of shoot we had with him. And he brought so much to the scene, because it was here in this island in the north of Germany, in the Northern Sea, and we spoke a lot on the phone. And then when I met him at the costume, he arrives and he had like loads of stuff with him, he had an accordion that wasn't in the script, and and I said to him, "Well, do do you play accordion? He says, no. I says, well, why is there accordion there? He says, well, this morning I opened my Schrank, can you say that? My cupboard. And I was thinking of the character, and I was looking at all my stuff. He must have like this magical cupboard. And he says, and I saw the accordion, and I thought this would be good. So he had to do a huge trip. He had all this accordion. And I love accordion, not that he knew it. And so right away I thought, oh, well, Marie plays accordion. I saw her play accordion in the film. And so I thought, well, we're going to take this. And my first idea was like all wide thinking, but Emily, we didn't organize all this. And then he says, oh, and I also brought this snail. I says, really? So what's that about? And then he started to go, I'm like, well, that's wonderful. And he was so amazing, and I just used it all. That's what we do, we directors. We steal from anything we can steal. We steal it, and especially in this scene, I so wanted it to be free, and we did a lot of one-shots there. So it was really, really perfect. Yeah, it was a joy to work with him, yeah.
More comments? More questions? Well, maybe we just make room for the next screening, and thank you very much, Emily. Thank you for the audience.